So, the anatomical classification, central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system, the two organs, one is that is brain and another one is spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system, the peripheral nerves and nerve ganglion. So these are the two main classifications. One is central nervous system, peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system consists of the two main organs. One is a brain, that is a higher center, spinal cord, secondary center. So these two organs are considered as a central nervous system. The peripheral nervous system, the nerve fibers, the peripheral nerve fibers which arises from the brain and as well as spinal cord, they are peripheral nerves. Then other one is the nerve ganglion. The nerve ganglions are the secondary centers. That secondary centers, that will be the point which will becomes under the peripheral nervous system. So this is the two main classifications. Then again, in the peripheral nerves, there is again classifications. The 12 pairs of cranial nerves, that cranial nerve arises from the brain, that is cranial nerves, and 31 pairs spinal nerves. So these arises from the spinal cord, and splanchnic nerves, they are from the both region, brain and spinal cord, but no definite number. That is the splanchnic nerve. So that splanchnic nerve is mainly related to the part of viscera, the organs which are receiving the nerves, usually they are called as splanchnic nerves. So here under the peripheral nerves there is 12 pairs of cranial nerves which are arises from the brain, 31 pairs of spinal nerves which are arises from the spinal cord. Then splanchnic nerves, they are both arising from the including of that, or that is the portions of 12 pairs of cranial nerve or 31 pairs of spinal nerve. Okay, 1 second. Okay, now the screen is uploaded. So the nervous system classification, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system organs, the brain and spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system, the peripheral nerves and nerve ganglion. So here the peripheral nerves, the nerve fibers which are arising and distributed to the whole part of the body. So the another one is the nerve ganglion, that is the secondary centers which will be in the peripheral region. So the central nervous system, the brain is one of the important organ, that is the higher center, the main center which controls the all activities. The second organ is the spinal cord, that is secondary organ, that also have any centers and that is considered as a central nervous system. The peripheral nervous system, the peripheral nerves, they are the nerve fibers which are arises from the brain and as well as spinal cord. So the brain and spinal cord, they arises, that means they gives the nerve fibers. So the 12 pairs of cranial nerves from the brain and 31 pairs of nerves, that is from spinal cord, so they are called as spinal nerves. The 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves and splanchnic nerve, that is the nerve which will be distributed to the viscera. So that is the peripheral nerves or peripheral system. Then similarly the nerve ganglion. What is that nerve ganglion? That is secondary centers which will be located in the peripheral system. They are also a cell body, but they are not in the central system. These cell bodies lies outside the central system in the courses of the neither cranial nerves or the spinal nerves. That is called as nerve ganglion. So the nerve ganglions may classified as a dorsal root ganglion, that is mainly in the spinal nerves, then cranial root ganglion, that is the ganglion present in the cranial nerves, then autonomic ganglions, they are mainly related to the viscera. So this is the just classifications as in related to the anatomical aspect. So what is the central system? So the central system is a center for the sensory information which is coming from the peripheral to the center, then motor, that is the information from the center to the peripheral. So the brain is the center for receiving the sensory information and giving the motor information, transporting the motor information from the brain to the peripheral region. So that is usually a center of sensory and as well as motor. So that is the point to make it the central system organ, that the brain has a center for the numerous information, sensory and motor centers. The spinal cord is the secondary organ, so the information from the peripheral region, for example from the extremities, neither from the lower extremities or from the upper extremities, the spinal cord is receives that information, and some occasional or sometimes it will take say it's a center, and also it will be a coordination with the higher center and the transformation information to the peripheral region. So that is the two organs which will be the central system. In the peripheral nerves, that nerves will be arises from the brain and spinal cord. The nerves which arises from the brain, that is cranial nerves. The nerve arises from the spinal cord, that is called as spinal nerves. So these among nerves, some are have in relations and supplying to the viscera, that is to the organ, that is called as splanchnic nerves. So these are the peripheral aspects. For example, just what will be the action? See, suppose your finger is just nearer to the or touch the candle, that candle is burning, so that will be touched. What will happen? Immediately there is a burning and a pain. So that burning pain sensation is transferred to the center, then immediately center is takes the response mechanism. So you take your hand back, so that is response mechanism. So the temperature and pain is sensory information transmits through the nerve fibers and reach to the center. The center is to take intimations or the information, and response mechanism take your hands means that the information is reached to the muscles. The muscles will becomes the action, neither contraction and relaxation. So that will be effect on the movement. So the hand is movement from the out of the that candle burning. So this is the things you have to make it very clear concept of that, the communication between the central system and to the peripheral system. That is the one of the point. So here we have to concentrate the information, how it will be transmitted, how it will be reached, and how it will be transferred in the response mechanism. So whatever the sensory information that will be transmitted from the peripheral to the center, that is usually called as sensory knowledge, sensory information. So whatever the response mechanism from the center to the peripheral in the form of movement or in the form of action, so that is called as response mechanism. So this is the main classification, and you will try to understand about this anatomical aspect. So coming to the physiological classification. So what is the physiological classification? So the physiological classification is just simple. One is somatic system, somatic nervous system, and another one is autonomic nervous system. So what is the somatic nervous system? That is the portion, that means the central nervous system to skeletal muscles, the nerve fibers which are starts from the central system to the skeletal muscles. So that is somatic nervous system. That means the innervations of the nerves that will be to the muscles, skeletal muscles. So then we may call it this is voluntary system. As in physiology, there will be voluntary, involuntary. So this is voluntary function, that is somatic nervous system. The voluntary means that is under our will and wish we can make or we can not to make. So that is the decision that will be voluntary. That means voluntary control according to our will and wish. Suppose the autonomic system. What is that autonomic? That is involuntary. It is not under our will and wish. Particularly this autonomic nervous system is related to the viscera, that is visceral system. That means the nerves which are innervated to the viscera or the splanchnic, that means the organs. So maybe a organ, maybe a gland, or maybe some of the systems that will be related to the autonomic system, that is called as involuntary. It is not our will and wish. For example, secretion of the saliva from the salivary gland, digestion that is in the stomach or intestine, whatever. So these will be considered as an autonomic system. So this autonomic system has the two division. One is the sympathetic system and another one is parasympathetic system. So sympathetic and parasympathetic system. What is the sympathetic? That is to be a fight or a flight. That means the activities of the organs or activities of the sum of the parts of the organs in according to the response or in according to the situation, environment, the body will become as a more active or that will be higher functions. Means, for example, the increase of the heart rate normally or the respiratory rate is increased. What is this? Sympathetic action, the increase of the activities. So the increase of the activities, that is usually called as sympathetic system. Then coming back to the normal, that means after the situation, after the environmental situation, again the organ is coming back to the normal state, that is called as parasympathetic system, that is rest and digest. So like that, in physiology we can take it simple, that is somatic system, that is called as voluntary system, and another one is involuntary system. In the involuntary, there is a sympathetic system and as well as parasympathetic system. So sympathetic system is the particularly increase of the activities of the organs according to or in relation to the situation of environment. Or you can go for simple another two classifications. One is apparent system, that is sensory system, and another one is efferent system. The efferent is motor system. So what is the sensory system? As I told, from the receptors, that means from the peripheral or from the internal organs, that will be the portion of the apparent, that means the sensory information, that is from receptor to central system. So the efferent, that is from central to effector. Simple, you can also take it as in sensory system and motor system, that is in the physiological classification. As a simple, no any other complications, so just a sensory system, and another one is motor system. What is a sensory system? That is a sensory information transmits from the peripheral to the central system, that may be called as a receptors, that receive the information neither external environment or from the internal environment and reaches to the center is apparent system. Then from the center to the peripheral, that is in the response mechanism, that is called as motor system. Response mechanism, the movement of that body or the movement of that particular organ, something like that. So that is called as response mechanism, that is called as motor system. So be remember of these two. Just you can observe this figure. So this person is running. Why is running? Because the bull has followed. So he got in his mind. What is that? So the danger. The bull is irritating me. It will be makes harm to me. So that is why I want to escape. I want to avoid this situation. How? So he start to run. So that means when he is running, so the muscles are becomes more active. Due to that more active, there is more contraction and relaxations of the muscles activities. Once the muscle activity is increased, similarly, that muscles needs more circulation of the blood. So heart is start to more pump. That means high, that is heartbeat increase, because it has to send the blood to that particular area of the muscles. Then similarly, when the heart is start to the increase, definitely what happens? It needs oxygen. So simultaneously what happens? Respiratory system is also activation. So heartbeat increased, respiratory breathing is increased. So some of the endocrine glands which are go for the secretions of the some hormones, on account of that here the short muscles, that particularly hair roots, will be in a erect position. So this is called as hyperactivities. Just it's a normal, it's not a pathology. The normal increase of the activities of the body in related to the situation. So that is called as sympathetic. So for example, the activities increased. Example, heartbeat increased, respiratory breathing is increased, then some of the endocrine glands are becomes more active. On account of that, there is some changes in the action of the human body. So this is usually called as autonomic system. You can take this example in anywhere. Just for examples, I will give another example. See, at the 1 o'clock, it is in a lunch hours. So what happens in the class? The teacher has taken the class. So 1 o'clock, that is, he not leave. He continued the classes further. So simultaneously, what happens is in the lunch hours of yours. So immediately your stomach starts to secretions, and you feel the hungry, and then you are thinking that it's a lunch hours, like that. So that will be the situations. We can take it as the informations from the internal organs. So that is the point. Then we can take it sympathetic system. Or our class is going on, the teacher is not leave the classes. So 1 o'clock or that you have any time to get the bus in the outside. So just you are having any in your mind, sir is not living, my bus is not, I will got it. So whether I will be missing, what happens, something like there is any confusional mind in your mind, then definitely there will be a immediate action. So the sir is leaving at 1 o'clock, 5 minutes late, then immediately you are going fast running and to get the bus. So at that time, the increase of the activities. When you got the bus, when you get up, then immediately you are being relaxation. Oh, I got the bus. Like that, coming back to the normal status. That is called as the sympathetic action. So then, what is the parasympathetic? The parasympathetic is the simple, that means no any increased activity, hyperactivities, heartbeat is not increased, normal status, respiration is normal status, no any other internal environmental changes, nothing else. So what happens here? So completely that person is enjoying the parasympathetic system. For example, if you are taking any weekend party or something else and you are relaxing mood in the chair, then definitely it will be a parasympathetic. Whatever is happens in the outside, but your mind is and your body is concentrating to the parasympathetic system. That is rest. No any hurry, no any in the system's action changes. So that is usually called as parasympathetic part. So just you be remember of this figure. So this person is enjoying the parasympathetic system. That is called as the autonomic system, sympathetic and parasympathetic. That is the concept you have to be clearance. That is the classifications. So usually the portions, one that is the two types of tissues. So these the neurons that is having any two portions of actionations. So neuroectodermal tissue and mesodermal tissues. So there will be two types of classifications of nerve cells. But here the particularly the neuroectodermal tissues, that is the neurons and neuroglia. The neuroectodermal tissues are neurons and neuroglia. Then again, the mesodermal tissues. That mesodermal tissues are usually the microglial cells, that is dura mater, pia mater, organoid matter, and blood vessels and mesenchymal cells. So these usually the mesodermal tissues. That means this arises from the mesodermal layer in the embryogenic portion. The neuroectodermal tissues, that is directly the neurons, the nerve cells and neuroglia. The neuroglia means they are not neurons, they are supporting cells. They supports to the center or the supports to the neurons, that is supporting cells, that is called as neuroglia. The main neurons are, that is main cells of the nervous system, that is the neurons, and supporting cells, they are called as neuroglia. They supports to the main neurons. Then mesodermal tissues, this is also in a different parts and different structure of the nervous system. They are derived from the mesodermal tissues, that is maybe a microglium, that is cells, then dura mater, pia mater, organoid matter, that is covering up the brain, called as meningeal or meninges. Then again the sum of the blood vessels and mesenchymal cells, all that will be derivation from mesodermal tissue. So that will be the basic cells, basic structures of the nervous system. We have to be basic idea is important. So this is the point in related to the portion of division. I think you are clear Any doubts, any questions, you please make it. I will clarify the things and then will be continuation